Once upon a time in a faraway land, there was a monk who had taken a vow of silence for 20 years. People admired his wisdom, even though he never spoke a word. One day, the mighty King Rajveer heard about him and grew curious. A monk who never speaks? What wisdom can he possibly have? The king scoffed. To test him, the king sent a royal invitation. If you are truly wise, come to my palace and prove it. The next day, the monk arrived at the palace. The grand hall was packed with ministers, scholars, and the curious public. The king smirked. If you cannot speak, how will you answer my challenge? The monk simply smiled. The king presented a blackboard and wrote, "What is the greatest power in the world?" The monk picked up a piece of chalk and drew a question mark. The court burst into laughter. "He doesn't know," they whispered. The king chuckled. "A question mark? Are you asking me back?" The monk nodded and pointed at the king's heart. The king frowned, deep in thought. "Power is not in gold, weapons, or armies. It is in the choices we make," he murmured. He wrote another question. "What is the greatest wisdom?" The monk smiled and erased the question mark. Instead, he drew an ear. The court was puzzled. The king thought hard and suddenly exclaimed, "Listening! The greatest wisdom is listening before speaking." The room fell silent. The king was impressed but had one final test. He wrote, "What is the greatest victory?" The monk picked up the chalk, hesitated for a moment, then dropped it. The room gasped. "He's giving up," someone whispered. The king, however, smiled. "I see. The greatest victory is knowing when to walk away from battles not worth fighting." The monk simply bowed. The entire court erupted in applause. The king, now humbled, stood up and said, "I came to test you, but instead, you have taught me." The king, now respectful, said, "I have one last question. Will you break your vow of silence and finally speak?" The monk took a deep breath, looked around and said, "No." The court erupted in laughter. And so, the silent monk, without many words, changed a kingdom forever. Moral of the story, wisdom doesn't always need words. Sometimes the deepest truths are found in silence, patience, and the courage to walk away from unnecessary battles.